Hi divas, welcome to day two, stopping the self-sabotage. And this is day two of a series called Mindset Transformation 101. So we'll begin again, self-sabotage, and we're going to be looking at the behaviors and the beliefs that cause it, okay? So first part is, how do we do it? What does a self-sabotage mindset look like? You see, self-sabotage and self-defeating behavior are easy to find. These are the things that you do on a regular basis that you know are bad or self-destructive, such as procrastination, but you do them anyway. Say you have a report due on Friday, but you wait until the last minute to get it done. You leave the dishes in the sink, even though you know this might make your husband or your mom or somebody else mad. You don't return important work phone calls. Chances are your self-sabotaging behaviors have the same underlying cause. For example, if you are not returning important phone calls, it may be because you lack confidence in yourself or your abilities at work. You may also hate your job and are looking for ways to make the day easier and avoid doing the work. Now, though these coping methods may provide some kind of short-term relief, the problem is they'll ultimately make your life more stressful and more difficult. You could end up paying for these mistakes with reduced income, lower self-worth, unfulfilling relationships, and emotional turmoil, which once again will leave you in a bad situation and will also bring about what we call self-sabotage. When it comes to improving your life for the better, understanding how your mind works is one of the most important things you can do, because it holds many of the beliefs which influence your behavior on a day-to-day basis. Self-sabotage is a term used to describe the things that people either do or say which ruins their success or happiness that they are experiencing at that time. Now, this can occur when the success or happiness is above the level at which the person believes they are worthy of. And I'm going to speak on that. I'm sure we've all been there where we said things to ourselves like, oh, everything's going too good, or this is all too perfect. Right there is you've kind of committed to self-sabotage, because what you've said is, I'm not worthy of things being this great. I'm not worthy of things being this good. So because you feel you're not worthy of it, guess what happens? The world and the universe will find a way of taking that away, and we'll come back to that in a moment. So some of these beliefs, however, are negative and will make it harder for you to achieve the things you want. Self-sabotage and self-defeating behaviors can happen to anyone. And depending on your situation, they can lead to procrastination, indecision, anger, lack of focus, chemical dependency, self-pity, self-doubt, and more. Whether you're coping with too much pressure or too little motivation, you may need to take time to adjust your priorities and expectations. Stop demanding perfection. Simply aim for improvement. And you see, this is a problem that we do to ourselves again, ladies. We put so much pressure on ourselves, and everything has to be so perfect and everything has to fall into line. Well, guess what? The universe does not work that way. Nothing will ever be perfect. Nothing will always be in line. But what you can do is train yourself to accept that and to also find ways of moving on from that, okay? And this once again goes back to yesterday's training class on fixed mindsets versus growth mindset. So if you didn't get a chance to see that one and are just coming in on day two, I would ask that you please go and, review that. It will really give you a better understanding of what's going on now, okay? So this is once again a little example of what I'm kind of speaking about regarding self-sabotage. Now, you will see the brain, and you can see the man is speaking, man or woman is saying, this is what I desire. And the universe is saying, okay, you desire it, here you go. And then your mind is saying, but who am I to be blessed this way? This can't be. So now you've portrayed that you don't want it and you're saying, no thanks. So guess what happens? You don't achieve it. When things start going really well, it's common for self-sabotage. We get used to a certain level of finances, love, success, and connection. When we push past that to another plateau or another level, it's not uncommon to do something that brings us back to what's comfortable. You have to learn to accept the discomfort, because what I'm saying, and I'll repeat it, is basically, we get used to a certain level. So anything above that and beyond that, we're not comfortable with, because we're not comfortable being in that situation. But just because it's bigger and it's better does not mean that it's wrong. So you have to learn to accept that discomfort rather than committing some kind of act of self-sabotage to bring yourself back to the level that you're comfortable with. Okay? The expression, "you are your own worst enemy," rings true for most of us. How many times have we acted against our self-interest, then asked ourselves, why did we self-destruct? Why did we say that to a loved one? Why did we procrastinate on that project? Why have we stopped doing that one thing that makes us feel so great? Self-sabotaging thoughts and behaviors are perpetuated by an inner critic that we all possess. Our critical inner voice is formed from early experiences. Without realizing it, we tend to internalize attitudes that were directed to us by parents or influential caretakers throughout our development. For example, if our parents saw us as lazy, we may grow up feeling useless or ineffective because we were always taught that, and that was always instilled in our brain. We may then engage in self-sabotaging thoughts that tell us not to try, i.e., why bother? I'll never succeed. You don't have the energy to do this. And really what you're doing is you're just reinforcing what you were told throughout your childhood and now bringing that into your adulthood. For instance, if our parent felt critical of their appearance, we may take on similar insecurities without realizing it. We may feel easily self-conscious, less sure of ourselves in social or public situations. And in situations like that, you have to go outside of your boundary and push yourself out of the norm. You have to kind of feel uncomfortable before it becomes comfortable again. So we can't change the past. Yet as adults, we can identify the self-sabotaging thoughts that we've internalized and consciously choose to act against them. There's an author, Elizabeth Gilbert, and I'll be honest with you, I love the way she said it. You need to learn how to select your thoughts just the same way you select your clothes every day. And this is very powerful because it has a lot of meaning. In the same way you consciously decide what shirt, what skirt, what blouse, what blazer, what purse, what matching accessories, how your hair is going to be styled. You wake up and you know what you're going to do. You do it, you get it done. You have to also think about your brain has this in the same way, your thoughts in the same way. You have control over them. You can decide what your brain thinks. You can decide how you feel. You can decide it, okay? So if you want to control things in your life so bad, work on the mind. That's the only thing you should be trying to control. And that's what brings me back into my whole mindset over everything. And that's how it came about. I'm a firm believer that once you get your mind right and in the right zone, anything you want, whether you're wishing for love, happiness, a big car, more money, financial stability, even down to health, I'm a firm believer that if you believe in it enough and you train your mind enough, all of those things will follow, okay? Now, once we know where our self-sabotaging thoughts come from, we can start to familiarize ourselves with our critical inner voice and notice when it starts to seep in. So as we do this, when we notice that, wait a minute, this could be one of these self-sabotaging behaviors, check yourself, say, wait a minute, seems like you're slipping. You know how we talk to ourselves, ladies, and just bring yourself back. For example, if we often feel embarrassed or ashamed and as a consequence hold ourselves back socially, start to push yourselves out there. Start to be more outward. Start to be more open. Start to strike up conversations with strangers that you never would have. Yes, you're going to feel uncomfortable at first, but once you keep doing it, it's going to become the norm and it's going to become more natural for you. Okay, ladies? So honestly, you've got to step outside the box to make a change. Changing these self-sabotaging behaviors will make us anxious because it means challenging deeply ingrained old and familiar attitudes that we've long held about ourselves. Okay, so you may hear your voice saying, how can you trust her? She's going to leave you. Be careful and don't let yourself get too close. You know, if we had a parent who acted overbearing or intrusive, we may feel easily suffocated by our romantic partner. We may hear voices like, he is too needy. Can't he just leave you alone? You're better off on your own. You just can't handle being close. Our critical inner voices encourage us to act out our defenses in all areas of our lives, but most often they appear in our closest relationships. They often hold us back from getting what we really want, saying what we want, instilling a fear in us that we'll be hurt if we do, hurt like when we were children. May even choose partners who play into these old dynamics, partners who play into the old stereotypes to give yourself something to say, well, this is all I'm worth, this is all I deserve. So you kind of recreate past scenarios that help you to maintain that negative identity that you've held so long. Ladies, and I'm telling you, we have to stop. It needs to stop. The self-sabotage has to stop. So how do we stop? And I know that's going to be the next question, and I'm here to kind of break it down to you. I'm going to give you 4 quick steps to stopping self-sabotage, but I also want to let you know that tomorrow's video, which will be day 3, mastering your thoughts, it also coincides with this. So this is just 4 quick steps, but in addition, you will need to watch tomorrow's training video so you can actually get more steps that you can work on, you know, to kind of make your thoughts become whole and one. So 4 quick steps to stopping self-sabotage. The first step involves separating from the destructive attitudes. That's that critical inner voice that you've internalized over the early years and you've learned to deal with. You've got to stop that. You've got to separate yourself from that. You've got to become separate to that. The second step requires you to separate from the negative traits that you've adopted from your parents, that you can see, you can actually know and see that you have taken on, that do not help you, do not push you forward, and kind of hold you back and have a negative impact in your life. The first step involves challenging the destructive defenses or adaptations we've made to the pain, because a lot of times we'll adapt ourselves not to feel pain, and we'll act in a certain way to shut things off. For instance, if we were used to being let down or rejected as children, we may have formed a defense that shuts us from wanting or expecting much from others. Now, though this lowering our expectations may seem to help cushion us from getting hurt as kids, this same defense can help us from trusting or getting close to someone as adults, therefore, once again, having a destructive effect in your life. And the 4th and final step of today's lesson, to differentiate, asks us to develop our very own sense of our own unique values, ideals, and beliefs. You see, when you stop living in the shadow of the past, and when you stop adopting old ways, you then leave room to dig through and find you, and find things that you've never really touched on. Once we have separated from the negative overlays from our past, we can uncover who we really are. We can stop self-sabotaging behaviors and choose the person we really want to be. For example, if we felt abandoned as a child, we may have the tendency to become insecure in our adult relationships. So it's time to kind of recognize that, learn to kind of push past that and find other alternatives and better ways of dealing with that. Because ladies, getting to know our patterns can help us to avoid self-sabotaging relationships. We can start to act against our inner critic and break from defenses that no longer serve us well today. Facing our past is an important part of this process. Once we familiarize ourselves with our defenses, we can differentiate from self-sabotaging behaviors and live a more liberated life in which we are more powerful and much, much more in control of our destiny. Okay? So, like I said, tomorrow's, day 3's mastering your thoughts session. Please make sure that you actually watch this too, because it really does coincide with day 2. Once again, thank you for joining me. I hope this lesson was beneficial. I hope you learned a little bit here once again. Once again, if you want to know about me, you can go to my website, www.mindsetovereverything.com. Read on my bio, see my packages. Once again, a lot of this stuff I'm training you about and teaching you about. I know it's hard sometimes to go alone, and that's the reason why so many people do seek coaches. So feel free to reach out to me. And once again, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Have a blessed day, and we'll speak again tomorrow.